African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javanokelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Greetings everybody, my name is Simon Javanokelo and you're listening to the African Father in America podcast. Today I'm extremely privileged because I have a really special guest. I have my dear sister, Cynthia Mwangi, all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. Cynthia Mwangi works at Royal Media Services, which is the largest media house in Kenya, as the radio manager for Hot 96. Cynthia has grown the station to the top 5 most listened to English radio stations in the country. Cynthia is also a presenter hosting the Saturday breakfast show, The Morning After. And Cynthia is a trained radio producer, and during her 9 years at the Radio Citizen, she produced Mambo Mseto East Africa's biggest youth show hosted by Willy M. Tuva. And previously, Cynthia produced one of Kenya's best breakfast shows, Jeff and Jalas, before moving to the drive show with Kiguta and Patrick Igunza. Now it's called Patrick Igunza and Bensu, which is a gem in the making. Cynthia is also the co-founder of Ythera Gifts, an online-based chocolate confectioneries company. And being the only girl with 3 brothers, her father has a strong factor in her upbringing. And out of radio, she's a voiceover artist, moderator, and an MC. My dear sister, just want you to, paint a picture of a younger Cynthia, let's say 8 to 12 years old. What was going on around that time for you?
Okay. Hi, and thank you for hosting me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And oh my goodness, me at 8? Do I remember me at 8?
I know. I would love to know that.
Me at 8. In Kenyan terms, where is that? What class is that? That's
Man,
3 and 4.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can go back there.
Which part of the country were you in? Were you in Nairobi at that time?
Oh God, no! I came to Nairobi for high school, technically, and it was a very straight route. It was school, home, full stop. So I came to Nairobi properly in college. So I'm pretty much a village girl.
Yeah. Which part of which village?
So the particular space you're asking for, I was in a place called Kijabe. So Kijabe is a mission town. It's Kijabe that has Kijabe Hospital, Rift Valley Academy, the Miles Center for kids with cleft.
Right.
So that's where I did pretty much of the growing up, between I think 8 to around 14. Yeah.
In Kenya, a place like Kijabe is very colorful. It's just green, and if you're walking or driving along the roads, the maram is really rich brown, the volcanic brown.
Right, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's just it's one of the areas that is very, very fertile, and a lot of Kenya is an agricultural economy, so a lot of the produce comes from that region of Kenya, right?
Yeah, yes. Right. Although it's technically on the rift, like quite literally on the escarpment. So we call it's an escarpment town. So when you're in Kijabe, you can see the Rift Valley at the bottom. It's beautiful. It is so breathtaking. But you're right, it's very green. It's very beautiful to look at. I mean, it's one of those nostalgic places. And the funny thing is, you go there 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it doesn't change. It's the way it was. Very little changes. It makes it one of those relics.
Man, it's interesting. Here in Seattle, there are so many Kenyans and other people from other parts of Africa who are moving to Seattle. And actually, part of the motivation for starting this podcast is that the suicide rate in the Kenyan community here has been going through the roof.
Yeah.
And there's a Kenyan filmmaker that committed suicide from Vancouver. He used to live in Seattle, then he moved to Vancouver. So, and last week there were 2 Kenyans. This week there are already 2 Kenyans. So you can see how serious it is, you know. So, you know, I'm only 36, and there are already a lot of people reaching out to me. Simon, how have you been able to keep it together for this long? You know, and I feel like I'm not ready to be an elder, you know. I'm not ready.
Please don't. Not yet.
Yeah, so this is why I just wanted to build a platform where we can share stories and inspire people, but center it around Black fatherhood and you know, paint pictures of how it was to be brought up in, you know, in a place like Kijabe, and then you left Kijabe and went to Nairobi. How was the transition like? Let's say right before you got your work with Royal Media Services.
So at that point, I was living with my dad, because then my mom was a principal at a national school in Moranga.
Oh.
So I was the one who was doing everything in the house. I was the one cooking, cleaning, making sure at least my dad is catered for as far as food is concerned, and everything is clean, you know. So it was an interesting phase, because then the way we've grown up, especially in Kenya, there's very little, if any, interaction with your father. There was hardly any. So when I was put in a space where I had to talk to my father every day, we had to have a proper grown-up conversation every other day, I started appreciating that, because I noticed this is not something that you get every day. And as you said, I'm an only girl, so he really needed for me to come out to be right. Like, if you didn't get anything else right, at least raise your daughter right.
Right.
So for me, it was a beautiful period.
Yeah.
I think we were together for how long? Almost 6 years, I think, if I'm not wrong. 6 years. Because then my brothers were elsewhere. My brothers were in school. One was in high school, the other one's in primary school, and the other one was in college. So especially the one in college, there's no way he's coming home. So he'd be having too much fun. He would not want to come and stay with my dad. So it was me and my father. So I think that's the part where I started appreciating the ideas that he has for his family, what he envisions for me, what he would want me to turn out to be like. And I stopped fearing him. That I think I have to appreciate that part. When you grow up in an African setup, we usually say, if you either hear the car coming into the driveway, or if you hear your father talking outside, everybody scatters to the bedroom. You cannot be in the same space with him, because chances are he'll say something wrong, and he'll just start causing. It's just like drama. And so for me, I moved away. It helped me clear that he is not just a disciplinarian. He is not here to see all the wrong things. He actually genuinely loves you and wants the best for you. So that period, I really appreciated that period.
Right.
So that's the little space I had when the idea of my father flipped.
Right. It's funny. You know, I see that with my 3 girls. You know, the most time I spend with them, the more lucky I feel like I am, but also the more lucky I think they are, because, you know, my father was a polygamist. You know, my mother had 9 kids. And
yes, I remember you told me that.
Yeah, then the first wife had even more kids, so we never really saw our dad. You know, I remember seeing him in high school, and you know, show up at the gate, and he had a shop in Shags, you know. So he would come with coins, you know, in a plastic bag, and people would be running looking for me, that your grandfather is at the gate, he has a lot of coins for you. Then I would go to the gate, and we would only talk like every month or every quarter, and we would just meet at the gate. You would give me a lot of coins. It would take me a while to use all of them, but I just appreciate him for everything he did, because now that I'm a father, I really know how hard it is. Yeah.
And if anything, at least you saw him. Most of the fathers never showed up, ever. And when they did, he wrote up with the newspaper.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you got to Nairobi, and I wanted you to paint for me the picture of, how you got your foot into the door at Royal Media Services, and how things look like, how the beginning was like, and how things look like now, because I know how such a hard worker you are. I know your work ethic just from what I see, and you're one of the people that really inspire me to also keep grinding. So today is really I didn't know how I was going to have this conversation. I had to change a few times. I was like, I'm not kidding. I value you so much. So yeah.
Okay, so how I started. So I started out as an intern. Yes, I got in as an intern, and now the strange thing is, it took me a while to even get to college and start doing communication. I remember telling my dad I wanted to be an artist. Then he just looked at me like, sorry, what? Repeat that so I can hear you. So I went, I was like, what I meant was I want to do media.
Yeah.
So they got me a school.
Yeah.
I went in, did 6 months in college. Now, after the 6 months, we were supposed to go for internship. So I got internship at Citizen. Then I was ideally supposed to go back after the 6 months. You go to college and then finish your 1 year so that you can now join university. So ideally, I never went back by then. Even when I've asked.
So through the internship, you are retained.
So I was retained so I did my 6 months.
Yeah.
Then after the 6 months internship, I got a contract for another 6 months. And then after that, I got employed. So for me, it was such a shocker, because anyone who knew me knew I really was focused on joining the Hot 9060. So when I went to the HR, when I went to the HR, she asked me, okay, where do you want to go? I said, I want to go to Hot 96. I mean, where else did I want to? I'm young. It would only make sense for me to go there. And she's like, okay, no problem. So she called one of the bosses and said, so this one is your intern for the next 6 months. Go. And I was excited. So I followed him. There was no communication of where I was going. I was just to follow him. So I followed him. Then I walked into a room, and then I saw another lady seated there, and I was told, this is where you'll be working from. This is a Citizen production, and you're going to be a producer, and you're going to learn how to edit in Kiswahili, in Luya, in Kalenjin, all the dialects that we have in Kenya. So I just looked at him. Excuse you. I think I was very clear when I said I want Hot 96, so I don't understand what I'm doing here.
Right.
But it was quite an experience. It was such a brilliant experience, because I was taught things I had never seen before. And I learned so fast, because I think that's the one thing I appreciate about my parents. They teach you how to not be rigid. Right. You've been thrown into the deep end, roll with the punches, go with it. Or you're going to be a producer for a Luya station, go with it. I mean, what's the worst? You're going to learn something new today, and then you move on. So I think I learned from an early age how to embrace that kind of change. Right. So for me, I just kept rolling with it. I just kept going with it. So 6 months later, I am retained. A year later, I'm employed. Next thing you know, I am probably one of the best producers.
Wow. How was it producing a show for someone like Jeff Korinange, Jalas, Tuva?
Okay, let's start with Tuva, because that was the earliest.
Actually, know Tuva a little bit. Well, I've gone with him all the way to his shags in Lamu before. Yeah. Good guy. But carry on.
Amazing guy. Yeah. no, it's cool. So Tuva, We started out when I joined Citizen. So I mean, he was the youngest presenter then, and his show was very young. So for me, it made sense for me to start plugging in there. So every so often, we would meet and we would sit and would discuss what it is we want to do with the show. It's like, Sasa, Cynthia, I want to add some artists. What do you think about this? I'm like, yeah, go for it. And then behind the scenes, I started getting him to bring me the artist to my studio. Then we would record drop, and I started packaging his show to be very hip. So
what year was this approximately?
Oh goodness, I remember. Let's put it at between 2009, 2008, 2009, 2010, all the way to 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like almost 9-10 years. Yeah, wow. So I packaged his show so well that it started sounding like what is Hot 96 now, or what would be like Capital. It sounded too hip. So I remember being called into one of the boss's offices, and he's telling me, you have to go back. Everything you have done for that show has to be re-edited, and it needs to sound like it's part of the national brand, which is Radio Citizen. So I looked at him and I had no idea what he was talking about. They're like, what do you mean? If it's a youthful show, it needs to sound useful. So it does sound useful. Unless you're telling me I've done my job too well, I need to go back and make it sound old.
Right. Pour some water on it.
Yeah, it was a little too hot, hot.
Yeah.
So anyway, we tried our best to, calm it down a little bit. But I think that part even stood out for everybody else. They're like, now, how come you don't make all the other shows sound like that? But then you see, he's the young guy talking to young people. It only made sense. And one thing I appreciate about Tuva is he's very, very receptive to ideas. He'll not tell you, no, I don't think we can do that. It's like, oh, you think that will work? Let's go with it. You think this is going to work? Let's go with it. So that's the same thing I found when I worked with Jeff and Jalas. Very, very receptive. I mean, I have to give it up to Jalango. He's a very receptive guy. He doesn't, and okay, it's probably a good thing and a bad thing. Sometimes he doesn't think through something very fast. So if you tell him, maybe we need to call State House, they're like, okay, let's call State House.
Right.
Let if there's going to be a fire, let it be after we've done that fire.
Right.
But not, you see it, you analyze, you see whether it's going to work, maybe it's not. Like, because being in media, it's very fast paced.
Right.
So if you throw in a suggestion, I'm like, maybe you should call State House. I remember there's a time we called State House. It did not sit well at the end of the day, but we ended up being probably the one station that ever called State House. Hosting Miguna, all these things.
Right.
The idea that if you sit as a team, if you throw in an idea, nobody says no. They're like, I see where you're coming from. I like that. Let's go for it. I think that's what made it probably one of the biggest shows ever. It's people who are receptive to new, uncomfortable ideas that rock, because that's what we're in that business. We make news, we create news. For me, it was a great experience.
Man, one of my favorite parts of the Hot 96 things that you guys used to do was the Astoria Day.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Anyway.
Oh, that was beautiful. That was so beautiful. I know we struggled trying to find something for the station, especially for that breakfast show.
Yeah.
So one day, I remember they used to tell each other stories. Jeff would tell his story from Bougie Land or from any of the countries he's been. Then Jalango would just talk about Kisumu and his fish. So then they started pushing each other like, if you tell me about Liberia, I will tell you about how I got my first car. If you tell me about working in the States, I will tell you about my first girlfriend. It was so good. And then now we got to a point where like, you know what, we can't always be telling about our stories. See, we let other people share theirs as well. So then we started incorporating other people's stories.
Right.
And so even to now, it's still going on. Actually, because today's it's still going on every Thursday, man.
I saw one about with Victoria Rubadiri. Yeah, it was really funny when she was talking of the meaning of her name, Rubadiri. She was explaining it in one of those videos. So, yeah. Anyway,
we've had Rubadiri, we've had, I remember the most memorable one was when we had, what's her name? State House.
Oh, is the government spokesperson, the lady?
Yes.
I can't remember her name, but she worked for Citizen too, right?
It's terrible. Like, that name has just gone, and she's Lulu. It was Lulu and someone. Now in my head, I just have Lulu and Rashid.
Yeah, I forget her name. Is
her name.
Yes.
Kangudena. And then, it was such an emotional show. Then after that, we just winded up and we just done. Oh, it was such a wonderful day.
Man.
Yeah.
Now, just listening to everything we've been talking about today, of course, your father is a prominent figure in your life, but you also work with other people who are fathers, like Tuva is a father, Jeff is a father, Jalango is a father figure. You seem to be, the people who create kings, and you're one of those people behind the scene who know how to work with a lot of father figures,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, understand what a father figure means to you, because you seem to work with those types of people who mean so much to so many people,
Actually, I'd never noticed that, by the way. Thank you for letting me do that. I'd never noticed that. I think...
The other thing is that it's not easy for ladies, for female to do that in Kenya, and so just seeing how you move always, not only inspires me, but makes me want to make the same moves, take the risks and, try things out without fear, so just speak to me about what a father figure means to you.
I think for me, a father figure, see myself. Okay, so a father figure is stability for me. It's support, it's courage, it's an anchor. And maybe because I've had such a present father, I find myself not, how do I say it, not veering off, but being pulled into a space where it's easier for me to work with figure fathers than anything else. And it's something I've come to appreciate, because I know it's not easy. For sure, it's not easy.
Right.
It's probably the hardest thing ever. And then you insert, there's certain things where we're still African, so there's certain things that people will respect. If you're married, that's a huge plus. If you're married and you have kids, that's a huge plus. So imagine I am not married, I am not dating, and I am working with men who are representative of the society. Ideally, most women would be freaked out about it. They would be scared. They'd be intimidated.
Yeah.
But it's the one thing that my father would never allow of me, to be intimidated. Never. I appreciate the fact that he raised me for a bit like one of the boys. It was, do not cry. I am sorry. It's like, you want something, imagine, fight for it. Or you want to, no. Just because you're a girl, I'm not going to make exceptions. Every so often I will, but not every time. Because I can make exceptions for you today, but then when you get out there, there'll be no one to make exceptions for you, because you are yourself. So you learn how to enforce yourself, to make a stand for yourself, to allow people to see what it is that you can give, without thinking that you deserve some sort of exception. So for a long time, that's what I had to go through. And I appreciate that, because then I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. I mean, a lot of people are intimidated by the people that I've had to work with.
Right. I can only imagine. Even myself, I'm intimidated by not just one, but all of them. I have to think twice before I approach them for anything.
So it's interesting. I think I honestly thank that. And also the strange thing is, even my mother is the same.
Right.
Most people think it's very intimidating, but I think just the way it's probably the way she is. She was also brought up the same way by my father, by her father.
So Cynthia, working in the media in Kenya means that you are one of the people that receive news of what's going on here in the States, earlier on, before the public. And currently, since I moved here, when I was in Kenya, I was just, Simon Okello, or maybe I was a Luo, or I was just me, an African man, But I've been here for like 10 years, but it's only like the last 2 years that I've realized that I'm a black man in America, and being black and being a black man is different, and so I wanted you to just share with me what the perception is of black men out there, including in Kenya. I know that there are these movements where irresponsible fathers in Kenya are being shamed publicly.
They're called deadbeat fathers.
Deadbeat fathers, and here that perception is also pervasive, and even one, like George Floyd. The narrative that the media was pushing is that he was irresponsible. He was, they just sold his life before before he started like changing and turning his life around. They didn't share even pictures of him, his daughter, his family, the things he was doing well, and if you look at all those victims, it's the same. But also, it's just pervasive. Even at work, I've worked with corporate America, several companies, and you can't lose it if you're black. If you lose it, you're an angry black man. And the way you're treated, even, it's just brutal. I saw people being escorted out of work with security, just for losing it. Anyhow, so what's the perception when you're in Kenya looking to the States?
The perception is, to be honest, it's a little scary.
Yeah.
I worry about my friends. I worry about my family. I worry about generally every black person who's in the States, because then by default you feel like you're also being affected.
Right.
So it's I honestly applaud every person who sits back and is able to visualize a peaceful space, and they're able to walk into their workspaces, go out, drive, and come back home safely,
right,
without wanting to protect their state. I mean, I have seen people being stopped for the slightest, tiny little thing, very small, that normally would not be an issue, but then you're treated like you're already guilty just because of who you are.
Right.
And so I have seen women cry as they talk to their children. They're like, look, I know you love wearing hoodies. I know you like sagging your pants. I know you like doing all these things. But because of who you are, you cannot do that.
Right.
Because that will create a different perception of who you are.
Right.
I have seen people who are not able to be themselves in their own spaces. I mean, we keep talking about, land of the free, but then...
No, it's not. It's not.
And I'm honestly really, really worried. But then I feel like it's an intricate balance, and we're probably into the, like Malcolm Gladwell says, there has to be a tipping point, and there will be a tipping point if we haven't already reached at the tipping point.
Right.
The minute that scale tips, that's it.
Right.
I mean, Obama was a perfect example of how things can change drastically.
Right.
We had an amazing period when he was there, but then the minute he left, things changed again drastically.
Right.
But then it allows us to see how people are. Because then if this is the kind of person I work for, then maybe this is not where I need to be.
Right.
I need to be somewhere where I'm appreciated. So it would take a lot of courage, if anything, to move and say, you know what, I don't appreciate this space, I need to go. I don't appreciate this neighborhood, I need to go. Because what matters most, peace of mind, your family's peace of mind, and making sure you raise your children to understand that they are free more than anything else. And they don't need to fear, they don't have to keep looking at their back, driving carefully, making sure that their windows are not tinted so that you actually live like a free person, because that's what you are. You can live absolutely anywhere in this world without having to fear.
I agree. I agree. I wish it was, like that here. Just less than 2 weeks ago, there were black female activists, feminists actually, like LGBTQ, community leaders and young members of those communities. They took it up to themselves and they were protesting every day. Here in Seattle, they were blocking the highway, and their protests were becoming very effective. And one of the strategies that they have is to defund the police so that some of the money that is being spent in buying tear gas and guns is going to be invested in community policing, And so, anyway, about 2 weeks ago, a white supremacist drove a car into this women's protest. And, like if you saw the video and it was happening and somebody was streaming it, if you saw the video, you can't believe it's America, So one of the girls died and the other one is still in critical condition. And a friend of mine was there. His name is Omari Salisbury. And he's actually a journalist who has been filming these protests for the last 4 weeks. And it's funny how grateful he is for the opportunities he had. He lived in East Africa for a while. He's African American. And I'm saying this to say that where you are, the type of institution that you're working for helps a lot of African Americans like him. He was saying he learned media in media houses in Kenya and Tanzania, and that has really helped people in Seattle see the story of how Black people here are being oppressed. And some of the videos that he has been sharing has made it so difficult for the mayor to not implement some of the things that people are pushing for. So anyway, I just want to also let you know that what we are doing here is to connect people like you with people like Omari, and to really expand his lenses so that people back home can also see what's going on and really learn. But I also wanted to just ask you what your thoughts are. I've been interviewing quite a few people for this season of the African Father in America podcast. And one of the things I'm curious about is learning ideas of how Black fathers can support each other. From where you sit, do you see that there are things that we could do better? One of the things I've been learning is that Black fathers need to be more vocal. They need to share what they're doing before they get into a situation with the system. For example, whether they're working out, whether they're going to do something with their family. Like what I'm learning is we need to have our own way of telling our stories before somebody else tells our stories. That's one of the things I've been learning. What do you see?
So I'll give 2 examples.
Yeah.
One, there's a guy called Pastor Simon. So Pastor Simon started a movement called Man Enough. So Man Enough is a training, and this came after a lot of people started complaining. I know you had given an example of people started talking about what we call deadbeat fathers.
Right.
Fathers who are not owning up to, who are not supporting their children, who are not in the lives of the family. So he started that movement, and his goal was, they say, train a child in the way he should grow, and he will never depart from the rules that you have laid. So he started training young men on how to be a man, and he will take you in for about a month, if I am not wrong, a month to 2 months. And everything you know about being a man, you have to unlearn, and you have to relearn something new. So you're taught how to respect women, you're taught how to fend for yourself, you're taught how to live with others in society, you're taught everything. And from that period, there's so many cohorts that have come out, and every single day, you will hear people say, by the way, the minute, say, Simon went through this, he has become a changed man. The way he takes responsibility, the way he communicates, and it's the smallest of things. Communication, the words that we choose, the way we handle situation has managed to create something so beautiful that people are fighting to get in. They're like, I have to make sure I get in. And it's young men from the ages of about 18 moving on. So I'm assuming from now, there's a generation of men who are very clear about their goals, very clear about their life, very clear about what it is that they want to do for themselves, for the society, for the community, and that does not change. And all it took was one man who stood and said, I have had enough. I'm going to stand in the gap and bring on other men and train them and talk to them and discuss how we need to be living in this society. Because if we do not stand for each other, it's going to go down the drain. You've had a lot of stories coming in from places like Nyeri, where you heard men are drinking, so women have taken charge of the towns. So women are suddenly owning buildings, women are doing all these things. And it started feeling like there's too much women empowerment. So he went back and said, it's not because there's too much women empowerment, it's because women work together.
So this Pastor Simon is from that region?
No. I don't think he is, but he's from Central.
Okay.
Yeah, he's from Central. But
that's so great. Yeah.
So
now you had a second example, right?
The second example is, there is something from where I come from, Central, called Kiama Kiama. So Kiama Kiama is, so Kiama Kiama is a traditional back to your roots not even training, like a group of men where you have your king. It's like the traditional Kikuyu setup. 100%. Why? Because we feel, let's say the Kikuyu men have lost their direction. They can't speak the language. You remember when we started, we were saying people can hardly speak their mother tongue.
Right.
And you cannot define who you are as a person. What defines you and the community that you come from? What defines you and the country that comes from? You can't say, I am Cynthia from what, but Cynthia, what do you stand for? What does your name mean? Like, who are you named after? What do you know about yourself? What is your heritage? You have nothing. So if you do not have a heritage, then there's nothing you're doing. So the Kiama Kiama is purely to teach you about heritage and identity. You get that, then you can be absolutely anywhere in this world, but you will never forget who you are.
Right.
So that Kiama Kiama teaches you from an early age how to respect your elders, how to treat women, and it's the same basic thing like what Simon is doing. Only this one has to be taken back to the grassroots.
Right.
You're taught. We do a lot of circumcision in groups, so they take you from the day you become, the day just days before you're circumcised, then all the way to the part where you're circumcised, and then after that you're part of a group for life.
It's like the warrior cohort or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
They're very keen on how you behave, such that should word get out that you're misbehaving anywhere, you will be brought in and you'll be brought in front of the king and you will have to explain yourself. They are very, very strict on such things. And it's being done by some of the most prominent people in government, in parliament, in NGOs, in corporate, but they will never say, this is what I do. But back then, like behind the scenes, they will come and tell you, I know you're 12, or I know you're 25 and you're discovering yourself, but what you're doing is wrong. Can you sit here and explain to us why you're defaming us? Because then you're making everybody else look bad, and we're not that kind of person.
Right.
Don't forget yourself. Don't forget your heritage. Do not try and take our whole society's name just because you have, say, anger issues or you're not able to contain yourself.
Right.
Those things. That's I think that's what I respect most. Being able to know who you are and your age.
Right.
Yeah.
So Cynthia, how can people learn more about you and your work, and how can, whoever is listening to the African Father in America podcast can stay connected with you?
Okay, so you can find me on, I guess, Twitter at Ythera_Mwangi. Because I am Kikuyu like that, I embrace my name. So Ythera is YTHERA_Mwangi. You can find me on Instagram as it's Cynthia Mwangi. And I guess on Facebook, you can find me at Cynthia Ythera Mwangi, or Cynthia Y with a Y, Ythera with a Y, and then Mwangi.
Fantastic.
I'm the girl with a happy face in pink.
Fantastic. So I actually forgot to, just ask you enough about Ythera gifts, and, this is an opportunity for you to share with us anything that I didn't ask you, but I wanted you to just remember to speak to Ythera gifts a little bit. I saw the chocolate and the wine event and that type of good vibes. Share a little bit about that too.
Okay, so a little bit. When we started the company, my partner and I, out of a botched Valentine gift. It went south, very south. We ordered for flowers. They came in at almost 8 p.m. The flowers were shriveled. It was a terrible experience. So he came back and told me, you know what? I think we can do better. So why don't we just start our own? So and so we did.
Right.
And we just grew it to having confectioneries, custom made chocolate. I mean, name it, we will do it. Whatever it is, as long as it's in chocolate, we will do it. So right now, I'm currently not part of the business anymore, but he still runs it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for creating the time to talk to me today. It means so much, and I know how busy you are, and I just want you to know that I'm grateful. I owe you not one, but maybe 3.
Oh, don't worry. When I come to Seattle, you will pay me back in full.
No problem.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for listening to the African Father in America podcast with Simon Javan Okello, and I want you to remember to go to iTunes podcasts, and rate the African Father in America podcast there and leave a comment. With that, I just want to say thank you. And today I was having a conversation with my sister Cynthia Mwangi. We talked about her story, growing up in Kijabe, then moving to Nairobi. We talked about her work with Royal Media Services, and some of the impact that she has had in this amazing company, what her father figure means to her. We talked about what she sees from Kenya when it comes to black fathers. Then we talked about ideas of how black fathers can support each other. Did you say Kiama? What was the name?
It's called Kiama.
Kiama. It's a traditional way of creating a cohort of men and holding them accountable. And themselves, within the group, they also hold themselves accountable. And then we also talked about how you can stay connected with Cynthia and some of the amazing work that she's doing. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you. And I really appreciate for having me today.
Anytime.
Father in America. Tujikaze. Tujikaze. African Father in